Learn English with simple stories. After listening, I will explain new words and give you questions to check your understanding. So, let's begin. Listen carefully. The Queen of Greed. Queen Regina of the Kingdom of Arida was a powerful, rich, and famous ruler. She had everything that one could dream of. Her castles were grand, filled with jewels and gold. Her people adored her and her armies were strong. But her thirst for more wealth, more power, and more control never stopped. One day, Queen Regina heard a tale of a mysterious sorceress. The sorceress lived deep in the forest, far from the kingdom. It was said that she had the power to grant any wish. Without hesitation, she ordered her royal guards to prepare her journey. After days of traveling, Queen Regina entered the dark forest with her royal guards. She stopped in front of a small, strange cottage. Inside, an old woman with glowing eyes stood waiting. Regina's eyes narrowed and she raised her chin high. "You will do as I command," she said, her voice harsh. "Remember, you are a subject of my kingdom. You must obey your queen." The sorceress smiled a little. "I will not be forced into giving you anything," she said. "I only grant gifts to those who are worthy." Regina's eyes flashed with anger. "Do you dare refuse me? I am the queen, and you will obey," she hissed. "If you refuse, I will burn down this forest and all that lives within it." The sorceress stood still, her face unreadable. "You threaten me with fire and destruction," she asked, raising an eyebrow. "You are a queen of a peaceful kingdom, yet you resort to violence." "Very well, I accept your challenge." Queen Regina stood tall, her eyes sparkling with a wicked triumph. "My first wish," Regina declared, "is for endless wealth. I want a treasure so vast that I will never have to worry about money again." The sorceress gazed at her quietly, her expression unreadable. With a wave of her hand, the air around them shimmered with magic. In an instant, a mountain of treasures appeared in the queen's palace. Gold coins poured from the ceilings, filling the halls. Hundreds of shimmering dresses made from the finest silks were placed at her feet. Queen Regina left the forest, her heart full of greed and desire. She returned to her grand palace, surrounded by endless treasures. Weeks turned into months, and there was an emptiness growing inside her. She looked around at the piles of riches, but they felt dull, empty. Nothing felt unique, nothing felt exciting. Regina grabbed a diamond necklace, but it no longer sparkled like it had before. The shine seemed dull, faded, as though the jewels were just like any other stone. She quickly discarded the necklace and picked up another beautiful dress. But as she put it on, the fabric felt so ordinary. "Why does this dress look so ugly?" Regina screamed as she threw it to the ground. "Your Majesty, this is the most beautiful piece in our kingdom," her servant said, shaking. "More, I need more," Regina shouted, her voice cutting through the silence. Then, Queen Regina mounted her horse and rode to the heart of the forest once more. "I want more," Regina demanded, her voice sharp. "I want power, the power to control everything around me." The sorceress looked at her with a knowing gaze. And with that, the queen's body pulsed with an unstoppable force. Regina lifted her hand and the wind began to swirl around her. With a snap of her fingers, rain began to fall from the sky. She raised her other hand and the clouds parted, leaving a clear blue sky. She was truly the most powerful person in the world. She was a queen like no other, with infinite power at her fingertips. At first, Regina felt invincible. She enjoyed watching the world bend to her will. She made the sun rise and set whenever she wished. She controlled the storms, making them appear and disappear at will. But soon, things began to change. The people in her kingdom no longer admired her, they feared her. Her servants worked in fear, never speaking a word to her unless necessary. Her closest friends, those who once stood by her side, now avoided her. They were all afraid of her power, afraid of the queen who could control everything. She realized that her power had made her more alone than ever before. She had the world at her feet, but she had no one to share it with. Once more, Queen Regina seeked for the sorceress. "I want to be eternal," she said to the sorceress when she arrived. "My wealth, my power, my endless treasures, they would all one day be gone. Grant me eternal life so I may remain here forever." The sorceress, with a heavy sigh, nodded. "Very well," she said, "your wish shall be granted." Regina stood still as the magic washed over her. She could feel the power of immortality flow through her. Days went by and Queen Regina enjoyed the immoral life to the fullest. Her body would never grow old, never tire, never fade. She felt no pain, no weakness, she was now eternal. Then years went by. Decades went by. Her friends began to die, one by one, leaving her behind. The people of her kingdom who had once adored her now feared her. They saw her as an eternal ruler, unchanging but distant. Her immortality was not a gift, it was a curse. As the years continued to stretch into decades, everything around Regina began to crumble. Buildings that had stood for centuries were falling apart. Crops failed and the markets grew empty. The people of the kingdom, unable to endure the suffering any longer, began to leave. And so, the once great kingdom that Regina ruled became a hollow shell of its former self. In the end, there was only Regina sitting alone in her empty palace. She had gained the world, but lost the very things that made life worth living. For the first time in centuries, Regina rode once more into the forest. I have lost my people, my kingdom, my friends. My wealth and power mean nothing. My immortality has only brought me loneliness. Regina fell to her knees before the sorceress, her heart heavy with regret. The sorceress nodded slowly, her expression filled with sorrow. Greed is never the key to happiness. Happiness comes only when we learn to appreciate what we have. The sorceress continued, now, you must decide, will you continue to live in your endless prison? Or will you choose to live fully, like all who are bound by time? Regina looked up, her eyes filled with hope. I choose to feel the joys of life, even if it means facing its end. The sorceress raised her hand, and Regina felt the magic that had bound her for so long begin to fade. Her gold disappeared, her power faded, and most importantly, her body began to age. She was a common woman, bound to nothing but time, but finally at peace with herself. As the sorceress watched, Regina walked away from the forest, her heart lighter than it had ever been. And though she would one day face her end, Regina had finally found what she had been seeking all along. The simple, beautiful joy of living with what she truly possessed. Let me explain some new words from these stories. Queen. Queen. Thirst. Thirst. Sorceress. Sorceress. Hesitation. Hesitation. Journey. Journey. Command. Command. Grant. Grant. Unstoppable. Unstoppable. Swirl. Swirl. Immortal. Immortal. Invincible. Invincible. Admire. Admire. Control. Control. Shimmer. Shimmer. Treasure. Treasure. Dull. Dull. Discard. Discard. Desire. Desire. Regret. Regret. Crumble. Crumble. Fade. Fade. Loneliness. Loneliness. Prison. Prison. Joy. Joy. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. What did Queen Regina desire at the beginning of the story? Answer. She wanted more wealth, power, and control. Question 2. Why did Queen Regina visit the sorceress in the forest? Answer: she wanted to grant herself wishes. Question 3. What did the sorceress do after Regina made her first wish? Answer: the sorceress granted Regina's wish, and a mountain of treasures appeared in her palace. Question 4. How did Regina feel about her wealth after a few months? Answer: she felt emptiness growing inside her, and the treasures felt dull and ordinary. Question 5. What did Regina demand after she grew dissatisfied with her wealth? Answer: she demanded more power to control everything around her. Question 6. What effect did Regina's newfound power have on her relationships with others? Answer: her power made people fear her, and she became more isolated and lonely. Question 7. What was Regina's final wish, and what did she realize afterward? Answer: her final wish was for eternal life, but she realized it brought her loneliness instead of happiness. The girl who wore a silver mask. Long ago, in a small village nestled between hills, lived a young girl named Melody. Her voice was like a sweet bird singing in the morning sun. However, there was one issue. Melody did not possess the delicate beauty like others. Melody used to have people came to listen to her voice. But once they saw her face, their smiles faded and they left quickly. After many disappointments, a deep sense of loneliness began to grow inside her. Luckily, she still had her supporter, who was Amr, her childhood friend. He often came to hear her sing and would say, "Melody, your voice is a gift from the divine. You should be proud of yourself." Melody smiled weakly, grateful, but the emptiness still lingered in her heart. One day, Melody decided to sing in front of the entire village. She wanted to show them her talent. She wanted people to finally notice her. With her heart full of courage, she stood on the small stage. She sang a beautiful song that made the birds stop to listen. But as she sang, she noticed something strange. People started to leave the performance. They walked past her, chatting, laughing, and not even pausing. Her voice echoed in the air, but it was lost in the noise. Melody stopped her performance, feeling the weight of her sadness. She quickly ran off the stage, tears falling down her cheeks. From the audience, Amr rushed toward her. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Melody, don't be upset. You were truly amazing. I just need to be alone for a moment," she whispered, her voice trembling. Amr, hurt but understanding, nodded silently. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small bouquet of flowers. "These are for you," he said quietly, handing them to her. Melody sadly placed the bouquet into her bag without saying a word. As Melody was packing up, a soft voice called out to her. "Your singing is beautiful." Touched by the compliment, she couldn't help but speak. "Really, thank you. May I know your name?" The man smiled kindly, but he ignored her question. You have an amazing voice, but that is not enough for the world, yes? Melody looked at him, feeling the sting of his words. He then pulled out a shiny silver mask from his cloak. With this mask, you will be admired and cherished, the man said softly. Why do you want to help me? Melody asked, her voice curious. The man's eyes softened and he replied, because I want those who truly deserve it to feel real happiness. A few days later, Melody organized a second performance, and this time it was a huge success. The mask enhanced her appearance, making her more captivating in the eyes of the audience. The audience clapped wildly, showering her with flowers. Everyone praised her, their eyes filled with admiration. However, amidst the cheers, Melody began to realize something. As she sang, no one seemed to actually notice her voice. However, caught up in the thrill of success and the invitations to perform, Melody traveled to different villages, performing wherever she was invited. The cheers echoed through the air, and flowers were always handed to her. The bouquets are more fragrant and more beautiful than what Emmer had for her. But Melody was not a fool. It took her little time to realize that this is not what she wished for. And on that fateful day, Melody decided to end the illusion she had been living in. That day, Melody received an invitation to perform at a grand theater hosted by a noble. For the first time, she felt the weight of her own reflection in the mirror. Do I need this mask to be loved? Do I need it to be heard? With a deep breath, Melody made the choice. She lifted the mask and set it aside. The moment her real face was exposed, the crowd fell into a tense silence. People around her stared with unfamiliar eyes, their expressions cold and distant. Her heart sank, but she refused to stop. Melody started to sing, her voice soaring through the sky. The air seemed to hold still, as if the world itself paused to hear her. Some people stood up and left, some people laughed at her. But Melody didn't stop, she sang with all her heart, letting the music flow freely. As she sang, she noticed the people who remained. A few clapped softly, others whispered to each other, praising her talent. This was it, this was what she had been longing for. The audience might have been small, but they were real. They heard her, truly heard her, not because of her beauty, but because of her voice. When the final note rang out, the few who stayed stood and applauded. Their applause was quieter than the roaring crowds from before, and there were fewer flowers thrown her way. But Melody felt no disappointment. This was true appreciation that she has been longing for. This was the feeling of being herself, of showing her talents proudly without the need for a mask. And then, through the crowd, she saw him, Emmer. He was still there, standing at the back, his eyes full of love and admiration. As Melody looked at Emmer, she remembered the words of the mysterious man who had given her the mask. Because I want those who truly deserve it to feel real happiness. She realized then that it wasn't the mask that had given her happiness, but the spirit to remove it. It is not the outward appearance that defines our worth, but the courage to embrace our true selves. Let me explain some new words from these stories. Nestle. Nestle. Delicate. Delicate. Loneliness. Loneliness. Supporter. Supporter. Admire. Admire. Courage. Courage. Echo. Echo. Satin. Satin. Bouquet. Bouquet. Compliment. Compliment. Tremble. Tremble. Shiny. Shiny. Cherish. Cherish. Admire. Admire. Captivate. Captivate. Fragrant. Fragrant. Fool. Fool. Illusion. Illusion. Reflection. Reflection. Tense. Tense. Soar. Soar. Whisper. Whisper. Appreciation. Appreciation. Long. Long. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. Why did Melody feel lonely despite her talent? Answer. She did not have beauty. People admired her voice but left when they saw her face. Question 2. Why did the mysterious man give Melody the mask? Answer. To help her be admired and cherished. Question 3. How did the mask change people's view of Melody? Answer. It made her more captivating and admired. Question 4. What made Melody unhappy with her success? Answer. People admired her appearance, not her voice. Question 5. What was Melody's decision at the Nobles' party? Answer. She removed the mask and showed her true self. Question 6. How did the remaining people react? Answer. Many people left, but some still stayed. They clapped softly and appreciated her talent. Question 7. What lesson can we learn from Melody's story? Answer. True happiness comes from being authentic and embracing our true selves. The secret beneath the blossom tree. Blossom was a pretty and smart girl. She lived a happy life just like any other girls. But Blossom had a secret. She was an adopted child. Her current parents found her in a village far away. They loved her dearly and took care of her so well. That was why Blossom never wanted to ask about her past. On her 18th birthday, something strange arrived. It was a letter with no sender. Inside was a faded photo of a village. There were no names, only 5 words: "Come home, it's not over." When Blossom showed it to her parents, their faces turned pale. "This is Blue Stream Village," her mother whispered. "That's where we found you." Not long after, Blossom arrived at the village. The trees were dry, the fields were empty. The villagers away when she passed, some whispered softly, "Cherry." Blossom was confused. She asked, "What happened to the land?" One old man frowned. "Didn't you already know this?" A woman shook her head. "She's pretending again," she said. "If you want the same answers again, speak to the elder." Blossom's heart felt heavy, but she had no other choice. She walked to the elder's house. The elder opened the door before she knocked. "You look just like her," he smiled. He told her an accident happened 18 years ago. The village lost the family that cared for the sacred tree. Since then, the tree has died slowly and the land has followed. "You are the one," he said. "You can restore our village." According to the instructions, Blossom followed the path into the deep woods. She walked past a dry stream. Beside it was a pile of rotten garbage. Then she saw a broken wooden sign: "Do not dump waste into the water." Blossom's heart sank as she stepped deeper into the forest. After some hours of walking, she reached the destination. At the heart of the forest stood the forest spirit. It was massive, like a giant made of roots and bark. Suddenly, the forest spirit looked at Blossom with glowing eyes. "My child," it said in a deep voice, "you have come seeking truth. Then you must answer 3 riddles," said the spirit. "If your heart is true, the path will open." It began the first riddle. Once laughter rang through field and stream. Now silence takes the morning beam. "I believe," she said gently, "that the villagers have forgotten how to care." As I walked through the village, everyone was cold and distant. They no longer trust or help each other. Without love, joy disappears. The spirit's roots moved slowly, like a nod. Then came the second riddle. "The elder told you," it said slowly, "that when the sacred tree began to die, the crops stopped growing and the land grew weak." The spirit leaned closer. "Do you believe him, child?" Blossom looked down. She thought of the garbage, the dry field, and the broken sign. She raised her head. "I believe the sacred tree is important," she said. "But I don't think it's the only reason. I saw trash by the river. I smelled rot in the water. The land is hurt because of the people." The forest groaned softly. Leaves shook above her. "Why does the mirror split one face in 2? Why are you called by a name untrue? Blossom's breath caught, her voice trembled. She suddenly remembered how some villagers called her Cherry. How do you know about that? The tree stood silent. It did not answer her question. Then the ground beneath her feet began to glow. Go, child, said the forest spirit, your path is not done. Blossom stepped into the passage. There, standing still as a statue, was a girl. Blossom gasped. The girl looked just like her, same eyes, same face, same quiet wonder. Hi, Blossom, my name is Cherry, the girl said as she ran to hold Blossom's hands. They sat on the stone floor. Cherry shared her story. Cherry had been working as a journalist, which led her to the village months ago. She soon discovered the truth about the village and her own identity. Years ago, the twins were born in Blue Stream. Their family had tried to warn the villagers about the pollution of the river and the forest. But the villagers did not listen, so they decided to leave. However, that night, a fire broke out in the forest. Their parents died in the flames. The twins were saved but separated. Blossom could not help but hug Cherry tightly. I was the one who sent you the letter, Cherry said. The forest spirit can sense where you live. They want to honor the family that once loved nature so deeply. They want us to meet again. Then, why didn't you just come to me directly? Blossom tilted her head. Cherry looked down, then met her sister's eyes. Because this isn't just about me, or even just about us. You don't want joy only for yourself, do you? Blossom smiled. I think I know what you mean already. Cherry happily placed her hand over Blossom's. We will bring the village another chance to remember, to heal, and to grow again. The forest spirit looked at the two sisters. Your parents must be very proud. Its eyes were tired but warm. Now, here is the reason why I brought you back. I cannot heal this land alone, it said. I need your hands, I need your hearts. And most of all, I need their faith. The tree then gave the sisters a small glass bottle. This is sacred water, the spirit said, enough to awaken one tree. Use it wisely. As the sisters came back, the elder has already gathered everyone to greet them. Cherry spoke gently. This land is dying because we turned away from it. We polluted the river, we stopped caring, we forgot how to live together. Some villagers shook their heads, others turned away. No more lies, someone muttered. The trees are dead, they can't be saved. Blossom stepped forward. Then let me show you, she said. She walked to the withered sacred tree. It stood like a skeleton in the soil. Blossom opened the bottle. She poured the sacred water over the roots. At first, nothing happened, then the ground shook softly. Tiny green leaves appeared, then buds, then flowers. Soft pink petals burst open on every branch. A cherry blossom tree now stood in place of the dead one. Gasps filled the air, children clapped, the elder fell to his knees. "It's true," he whispered, "she brought it back." The villagers believed, they followed the sisters. They cleaned the river, they planted new crops, they helped each other. After a week, the land began to heal. Under the cherry blossom tree, the sisters stood together. They smiled as the petals danced around them. That day, it wasn't just two sisters who found each other again. It was a whole village that found its lost heart. Let me explain some new words from these stories. Adopt. Adopt. Fade. Fade. Whisper. Whisper. Restore. Restore. Trust. Trust. Disappear. Disappear. Pollute. Pollute. Protect. Protect. Tremble. Tremble. Burn. Burn. Separate. Separate. Honor. Honor. Believe. Believe. Bloom. Bloom. Heal. Heal. Reunite. Reunite. Stream. Stream. Spirit. Spirit. Riddle. Riddle. Passage. Passage. Faith. Faith. Sacred. Sacred. Withered. Withered. Ancient. Ancient. Silent. Silent. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. Why did Blossom never ask about her past? Answer. Because her adoptive parents loved her deeply and took good care of her. Question 2. What was inside the strange letter Blossom received on her 18th birthday? Answer. A faded photo of a village and a message that said, "Come home, it's not over." Question 3. How did the villagers react when Blossom returned to Blue Stream Village? Answer. They avoided her, acted cold to her, and called her by the wrong name. Question 4. What did the forest spirit ask Blossom to do? Answer. To answer 3 riddles in order to reveal the truth and open the path forward. Question 5. What was Blossom's answer to the second riddle about why the land was dying? Answer. She said the land was harmed because people polluted the river and stopped caring. Question 6. Who was Cherry and what did she reveal? Answer. Cherry was Blossom's twin sister, and she told the story of how they were separated after their parents passed away in a forest fire. Question 7. What happened after Blossom poured the sacred water on the tree? Answer. The sacred tree turned into a blooming cherry blossom and the villagers began to change. A village made of ours. Horace was a successful young man in a modern city. Everything in his apartment was smart and always on schedule. At 6 a.m., a bell rang. He got up. At 7 a.m., the stove turned on by itself. To Horace, this life was proof of his hard work. The hard work he traded with no friends, no calls, no visits to family. One Friday night, Horace came home and found an old brown box. Inside was a broken pocket watch with strange words, "Time is owed." There was also a note with the name of a village. He couldn't sleep that night. He stared at the old watch. He was so used to digital clock and schedule, which were always full of deadlines. By sunrise, he packed a bag and boarded a train. Horace arrived at the village at 8 a.m. It was a small place, but full of life. The air smelled like bread and soup. As Horace walked through the village, he realized everyone was eating. Horace smiled at a woman. She looked at him, lifted her spoon, and kept eating. He waved to two boys. They turned away and kept chewing. Feeling lost, he stepped into a small eatery. There, behind the counter, stood a young woman. "Good morning, you're not from here, are you?" "How do you know?" Horace replied. "I'm Mirai," she said. "Of course I know, you are not eating in the eating hour." The eating hour? Horace blinked. Mirai patiently explained, "Our village has specific work for 24 hours. Each hour has one purpose, like 1 hour for eating, 1 for working, 1 for resting, so on." Suddenly, the bell outside rang loud and clear. Before Horace could say anything, Mirai grabbed his hands. "It is easier to show you. Come with me." It was 9 o'clock. "Now it is the hour of records," Mirai said. Every house had someone with a pen. Some wrote in small books, some typed on old machines. "Everyone writes down what they did yesterday," said Mirai. Horace looked at Mirai, who was also writing. It had words like talked 300 sentences, sat 3 hours, smiled once. Horace was shocked. "You do this every day?" "Yes," said Mirai, "it keeps things in order." After a while, the bell rang again. It was 10 o'clock. The hour of thanks had begun. Mirai smiled at Horace. Horace then saw other villagers walking around. Some gave letters, some gave bows, some said kind words. "Thank you for coming to my store today," Mirai smiled at Horace. This is so wholesome, Horace smiled to himself. But then he saw a boy walk up to an older boy. The boy said, "Thank you for playing with me yesterday." The older boy did not even smile, just turned away. "That older boy often bullies him," Mirai whispered. "But the young one has no other friend," he had to say thank anyway. Horace felt uneasy. Is this kindness real? Mirai looked down. Real or not, we have to say it. With that, the bell rang again. It was 11 o'clock. The hour of silence, Mirai said as she pulled Horace into her house. They sat inside a quiet room, the lights dimmed. Mirai gently explained it was the perfect time to rest the body. No one knocked, no one called, no one disturbed. You should also get some rest. Horace closed his eyes. This is the most reasonable hour so far, he thought. But then a sound broke the stillness, a soft sob. Horace opened his eyes and stood up. I think someone needs help. Mirai gently grabbed his hand. No. Even sadness and sharing must wait for its hour. Horace sat back, heart heavy. He thought of his own life, his long days working to a schedule. Is this order, he wondered, or a cage? The bell rang again. It was 12 o'clock. It is now the hour of exchange, Mirai said. We can talk now. Mirai, Horace asked, where does the bell sound come from? From the clock tower, the one in the center of the village. Horace paused for a moment, then asked, do you ever feel trapped here? Mirai gave a small sigh. Yes, she said softly. But I must get used to it. Everyone here follows the same path. Horace leaned closer. Want to go with me? This is the hour for conversations, isn't it? I have some questions for whoever controls that clock. Together, Horace and Mirai ran to the clock tower. A tall tower made of stone and iron. No guards, no locks, no signs. Why does no one come here? Horace asked. Because it always works, Mirai said. And when something always works, people don't question. They stepped inside. Dust filled the air. There was an old man standing in the middle of the room. The man looked at the two friends and then at the old pocket watch in Horace's hand. He smiled quietly. I've been waiting for you, Horace. My name is Eldon. Allow me to tell you a story. Your grandfather, Bennett Horace, came here long ago. This village was wild and broken. People lived with no order. So Bennett built this great clock tower and a schedule for the whole village. But he always reminded me a clock is a guide, not a cage. Eldon sighed. After he passed away, the village grew afraid. They thought, without strict rules, we would fall again. So they made new laws, more hours, more rules. Horace asked, if you knew this, why didn't you stop it? Eldon looked down at his hands because I was afraid to. And I couldn't stop the clock. He stood up and pointed to the great machine. This clock needs a key to stop, a real old key. And only Horace's family has it. Horace opened the back of the watch. Inside, hidden behind the metal plate, was a tiny key. The next morning, the village waited for the 8 a.m. hour of eating. But no bell came. People looked around, confused. Then, from deep inside the clock tower, a voice echoed. Time should guide, not bind. An old man gasped, that voice. That's the old village leader. Other villagers began to gather around the tower. I'm very happy to see you all here, the voice said warmly. But I must ask, why are you here? There is no hour for visiting the clock tower, is there? A few people chuckled softly. But others were more serious. We missed you. We needed your voice, we needed the bell. The voice replied gently, but tell me, did a bell guide you here? Silence fell, many shifted on their feet. You came because you cared, the voice continued, because you remembered me. The village began to murmur, did we just choose this? The voice became soft but clear, my villagers, you have grown so strong now. Perhaps you no longer need guidance for everything. From now on, we stop the hours. Not to break the village, but to give it back to you. To your hands, to your hearts, to your time. In the days that followed, there was some confusion. Some forgot what to do, some just stood still. But slowly, people began to choose for themselves. A woman ate breakfast at 9, a young man wrote poems. People shared tears and laughter anytime, anywhere. It took time, but the village grew more alive day by day. For Horace, he returned to the city with a smile. He made time to rest, to walk, and to watch the sky. Every week, he wrote a letter to LUYE by hand. Last time I checked, he promised to bring her to his city one day. For our girl LUYE, she was looking forward to seeing Horace again. She still visits Eldon at the clock tower regularly. In its place, he hung a smaller bell. Each morning, Eldon would ring it just once. Not to give orders, not to start a schedule. But simply to announce, welcome to your new 24 hours. Please, make the best of your time. Let me explain some new words from these stories. Successful. Successful. Schedule. Schedule. Trade. Trade. Deadline. Deadline. Bored. Bored. Eatery. Eatery. Purpose. Purpose. Record. Record. Type. Type. Order. Order. Thank. Thank. Wholesome. Wholesome. Bully. Bully. Silence. Silence. Rest. Rest. Disturb. Disturb. Cage. Cage. Exchange. Exchange. Control. Control. Question. Question. Remind. Remind. Afraid. Afraid. Confused. Confused. Guide. Guide. Choose. Choose. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. Why did Horace feel proud of his scheduled life? Answer. Because he believed it was the result of his hard work. Question 2. What was inside the mysterious brown box Horace received? Answer. A broken pocket watch with the words "Time is owed" and a note with a village name. Question 3. How did the villagers organize their daily lives? Answer. They followed a strict schedule where each hour had a specific purpose. Question 4. Why was Horace surprised during the hour of thanks? Answer. Because not all gratitude felt genuine. Some people said thanks out of obligation, not true feeling. Question 5. What was Mirai's response when Horace asked if she felt trapped? Answer. She softly admitted that she did, but said she had to get used to it because everyone followed the same path. Question 6. What did Eldon reveal about the true purpose of the clock tower? Answer. That it was meant to guide the people, not to control them. Question 7. What happened to the village after the bell stopped ringing? Answer. People were confused at first but gradually started making their own choices and living more freely. 2 girls and the fateful flower festival. A long time ago, in a quiet village, lived a girl named Daisy. She lived with her mother in a small wooden house near the river. Daisy loved flowers more than anything in the world. She grew them with care, sang to them, and made the prettiest bouquets. Even nobles from the city came to buy her flowers. They said her bouquets were more lovely than royal gardens. Still, Daisy's heart was never truly happy. She wanted to open the most beautiful flower shop in the city. She dreamed of becoming one of the royalties living in the capital. One spring, a great flower festival was held in the royal capital. Daisy begged her mother to let her go and sell flowers there. Her mother smiled and nodded, and Daisy happily went to the capital. The city was bright, full of music, perfume, and colors. Daisy stood with her cart of flowers near the Golden Gate. Her stalls were filled with roses, lilies, and blossoms. People stopped to look at her work and whispered with amazement. "Look at these," one noble woman gasped. "Such beauty, so gorgeous." Everyone was surrounding and praising Daisy. Daisy bowed her head and thanked every customer. However, her heart still felt small. She watched the ladies in gowns, the men in silk coats. She saw the golden carriages, the shining shoes, the glowing jewels. Suddenly, someone stepped forward from the crowd. It was a normal girl dressed in a simple dress, her face covered with a hood. She pointed to the most expensive bouquet on Daisy's cart. Daisy hesitated. That was a pretty extravagant bouquet. A normal citizen could not afford it. "That one is a little expensive," Daisy said. "You may like something simpler." The girl smiled and took out a heavy bag of gold coins. Daisy stared in shock as she handed the girl her bouquet. Later that day, as the crowd faded, the same girl returned. She pulled back her hood and Daisy gasped. They looked exactly the same, like twins separated at birth. "I am Lady Jasmine," the girl said gently, "daughter of Count Fleur, heir to House Fleur." "Shh, don't tell anyone," she whispered with a grin. "It's my first time sneaking out in weeks." Life behind palace walls is grand, but oh, so boring. "I'm Daisy," Daisy replied, "just a florist from the Clover Village. I had to beg my mother to let me come here. The capital is so beautiful, it feels like a dream." They stared at each other in wonder. Same face, same eyes, same voice, yet two very different lives. Then Jasmine smiled with mischief in her eyes. "What if we trade places for 3 days?" she asked. "You can live my life, I will live yours." Daisy's heart jumped with excitement and fear. "But what if someone finds out?" she whispered. "No one must know," Jasmine said. "We'll meet again in 3 days." They shook hands, sealing their secret with smiles. Daisy arrived at the Fleur estate as the sun set. The palace was quiet, grand, and filled with the scent of roses and cinnamon. A maid opened the golden doors and curtsied. "Welcome home, Lady Jasmine," she said softly. Soon 3 maids came to dress her. They washed her hands with rose water and tied a silk ribbon in her hair. A governess handed her a scroll. "Your schedule for tonight, my lady, please follow it exactly." Dinner was in a room with tall windows and golden chairs. When she picked up bread with her hands, someone gasped in shock. Use the fork, Lady Jasmine, a servant whispered behind her chair. Then another servant whispered, please sit up straight, others are looking. Daisy's cheeks turned red as she looked down at her plate, suddenly losing her appetite. Everything was so beautiful, yet she felt like a flower in a glass box. The next evening, Daisy wore a silver gown for a grand palace ball. The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers and polished floors. People bowed and called her Lady Jasmine with smiles and praise. A nobleman took her hand. May I have this dance, my lady? He asked. She nodded shyly and followed his lead with grace. Her heart beat fast with excitement. At last, something fun was happening. She smiled and thought, maybe I do belong here after all. You must love roses and tulips from the royal greenhouse, he said. I prefer marigolds and daisies, she smiled, they grow strong in all weather. The man blinked, clearly surprised by her answer. Their dance ended with a quiet bow and no more words. Daisy walked to the refreshment table and took a glass of juice. A noble woman beside her asked, Jasmine, do you enjoy hunting trips like your father? Not really, Daisy said. I prefer picking wildflowers, they make my heart happy. The woman covered her mouth and laughed. Daisy stood still, holding her drink tightly. She looked around the room full of lights, jewels, and chatter. People laughed, danced, and admired gowns, not stories. No one asked her what a lady loved or dreamed of. On the third morning, servants rushed into Daisy's room. The Prince of Camellia has arrived, one said. Daisy's heart jumped. She was led to the grand garden where a handsome prince waited. He bowed low. My lady, he said, your grace and beauty are unmatched. He reached for her hand and smiled gently, according to our old family agreement. Our wedding will be on the next full moon. There will be many feasts and events before that day. I hope you will enjoy them all with me. Daisy froze. She slowly nodded and whispered, yes, of course. But inside, her thoughts raced wildly. Does Jasmine even know about this arrangement? As she walked with the prince through the garden, Daisy thought about this royal life. I wanted fancy clothes and grand halls, but why does it feel so heavy? This life is a golden cage. Then a quiet truth bloomed inside her heart. What she truly wanted was not golden halls or fine dresses. It was the joy of living with her mother and planting flowers. It was the abundance and freedom to live her own life. That night, while everyone slept, Daisy packed her things quietly. She changed into simple clothes and slipped through the side gates. Soon, Jasmine arrived in a cloak, her steps soft and quiet. You came, Daisy smiled and waved. They sat together on a bench beside the fountain and started sharing. I tried your life, Jasmine said with a warm smile. I felt free, simple, and safe. The people were kind and real. But I missed the rhythm of the palace, she added. The music, the lessons, the elegance, it is still part of me. Daisy nodded slowly. I also tried your world. I saw beauty, gold, and praise, but I also felt lost. I now know my dream clearly, she said, smiling. To live freely and grow beauty with my own two hands. They looked at each other and laughed softly. Daisy reached into her basket and took out a golden flower. This is for you, she said. I hope it stays alive until your wedding day. Jasmine's eyes softened. That means so much to me. She handed Daisy a small, elegant card. It's an invitation, Jasmine smiled. Please come to my wedding, I want you there. They stood and hugged tightly, two girls with one face, but two very different dreams. Weeks later, Daisy returned to her village and kept growing thousands of beautiful flowers. Every morning, she woke to birds, sun, and blooming petals. Daisy sang while she worked, her heart light as the wind. She had gained something priceless from her journey, a friend, a truth. Riches fade, but being yourself shines forever. Happiness is not in living a life that is not yours. It is in loving the life that truly belongs to you. Let me explain some new words from these stories. Daisy. Daisy. Jasmine. Jasmine. Bouquet. Bouquet. Nobles. Nobles. Royal. Royal. Capital. Capital. Festival. Festival. Cart. Cart. Amazement. Amazement. Gowns. Gowns. Carriages. Carriages. Jewels. Jewels. Hesitate. Hesitate. Whisper. Whisper. Sneaking. Sneaking. Chandelier. Chandelier. Dance. Dance. Blink. Blink. Wildflowers. Wildflowers. Whisper. Whisper. Prince. Prince. Feast. Feast. Fountain. Fountain. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. Why did Daisy want to go to the capital? Answer. Because she wanted to sell flowers at the royal festival. Question 2. What made Daisy's flowers special? Answer. They were very beautiful, more beautiful than royal gardens. Question 3. Who was the girl that bought Daisy's most expensive bouquet? Answer. Lady Jasmine, daughter of Count Fleur. Question 4. What did Jasmine suggest to Daisy? Answer. To trade places for 3 days. Question 5. Why did Daisy feel uncomfortable at the palace dinner? Answer. Because she was not used to the royal manners. Question 6. What shocked Daisy in the garden with the prince? Answer. He said their wedding was already arranged. Question 7. What did Daisy realize at the end of the story? Answer. That she wanted a free and simple life with her mother and her dream. The Bardess and the Golden Pen. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Sophia. Sophia was a wandering bard with a heart full of dreams. Her greatest wish was to become one of the greatest bards in history. She sang and wrote poems, hoping to touch hearts with her words. But few listened to her songs. Every day, she stood in the busy square reciting her poems. But people hurried on with their busy lives, uninterested in her words. Day by day, her heart grew heavy with disappointment. Maybe I'm not meant to be a bard, she thought. One afternoon, after another day of silence, she decided to leave. As she packed her things, an old man appeared before her. He smiled gently and said, "I heard your poems from afar. I was walking through the village and had to stop to listen," he added. "Thank you," Sophia said. "I hope you enjoyed my performance." "I did," he smiled, looking up at the sky. "The sky is beautiful today. Can you write a poem about it?" Sophia was surprised. She had never received such a request. But her poet's heart felt a spark of inspiration. She took a deep breath and began. The sky today is like a silk of blue. Clouds drifting gently, soft and true. The sun sets slowly behind the hills. The wind carries a fragrance that heals. The old man clapped and smiled. You have talents, child, not many possess. Sophia blushed, feeling warmth inside her. She had never heard such praise. Sophia, right? He asked. Yes, Sophia Amora, she replied with a smile. Would you mind chatting a bit with this old man? Sophia nodded and they sat on a nearby bench. The old man looked at Sophia with a thoughtful expression. He smiled gently and said, "Today is a special day, my child. It brings back memories of stories from my past." He paused for a moment, his eyes distant, then continued. Would you like to hear one of those? I wonder, as a bard, how would you end these stories? Before Sophia could answer, he began telling his story. Once, there was a young boy just like you. He also dreamed of becoming a famous bard. He wrote many poems, 100, then 1,000. Until one day, one specific poem of his became popular. But I wouldn't call it a good poem. It is just a silly poem about his argument with his brothers. Well, I believe every poem has its beauty. What I mean is that the poem did not represent his soul. However, everyone loved it and they begged him to write more funny poems. He listened to them, writing more funny poems to please the crowd. But over time, he started feeling like he had lost himself. He remembered the poems he once loved. The poems about nature, trees, and clouds. The poems about love, life, and beauty. But he had abandoned them for the glittering fame of success. The old man looked at Sophia with a question in his eyes. If you were that boy, what would you do? Sophia thought carefully for a moment. She took a deep breath and replied with honesty. If I were that boy, I would stop. I would refuse those requests, even if people were mad at me. Even if they brought me fame. Staying true to myself is more important than pleasing the crowd. The old man smiled softly, nodding in approval. Wise words, Sophia, he said. The old man continued his story. The young boy grew up and kept on writing. However, he soon realized that his poems did not give him enough money. He did not have enough food or warm clothes. One day, he was approached by a wealthy family. They asked him to come live with them and only write poetry for their family. They would take care of everything from housing to money. But in return, he would only write poems that the family requested. What should he do in this situation? Sophia thought for a moment, then replied. It's a very difficult decision. Everyone needs a comfortable life. But I believe an artist cannot give up freedom. Creativity cannot be forced. Creativity should be free. Creative freedom is the most precious thing, even if it doesn't bring an easy life right away. The old man smiled and continued his story. The boy grew up, became famous, and achieved success. But after many years of writing, he ran out of inspiration. He began to write less, create less. He felt lonely, tired. He felt like writing was a burden. Should he give up on the path of creation? Sophia was silent for a moment, then replied with certainty. I've had moments like that, feeling like I failed, feeling like I was not meant for the arts. I mean, just today, I was feeling so discouraged. I think I would need to rest for a while. But one thing is certain. No matter how hard it gets, I won't give up. I am a bard and I will always be an artist. I will continue creating because that is what keeps me alive. Everyone needs a break sometimes, but the passion will never fade. The old man nodded in approval. You are truly special. You may be the one I have been looking for. The one. Sophia tilted her head in confusion. I am a bard of great renown in the capital. I have been searching for young talent to give them this. The man pulled out a pen from his pocket. The pen was shining in the sunlight. The golden pen has the power to write wonderful songs. Songs that will make the name of the one who holds it unforgettable. He turned to Sophia and said, I offer you this pen. I believe you have great potential. With it, I can help you become an even greater bard. Sophia was shocked and deeply moved by his compliments. Someone finally recognized her talents. But after a moment of thought, she decided to decline. Thank you so much. But I don't think I can take it. The old man urged her to accept, saying, Didn't you just admit? No one supports your songs. If you want to succeed, you need a little help. Sophia replied softly, You have lightened up my day. For that, I am deeply grateful. But I want to write with my own strength. I want to create poems that I can be proud of, even if they are not perfect. The old man nodded, his face expressing regret. He turned to leave, but as he did, Sophia noticed a smile on his face. It was as though he had seen something very special in her decision. In the days that followed, something miraculous began to happen. Audiences from all directions started gathering in the square to see Sophia. People were amazed by her stories and verses. Sophia overheard the crowd murmuring in admiration. Just like he said, she truly is creative. Gradually, Sophia heard more stories of the old man and the golden pen. Some other bards had received the golden pen from him. They took the pen and according to their angry stories. That man was a fraud, that was just a regular pen. However, Sophia knew the truth. That was the last test from him. The old man did not want to give her talent. No one could give her talent. Art and creativity are not things that can be given or bought. They come from within each artist. What the old man did was give her a small push. He introduced her to an audience that could have taken years for her to find on her own. He couldn't be sure if they would stay. But he knew that with Sophia's unwavering persistence, she would soon surpass him and become a wonderful artist. Because Sophia has what is most important to an artist, her uniqueness and authenticity. In the end, it is not fame or approval that defines an artist, but staying true to one's own soul. Let me explain some new words from these stories. Bardus. Bardus. Wander. Wander. Heart. Heart. Dream. Dream. Talent. Talent. Disappointment. Disappointment. Performance. Performance. Inspiration. Inspiration. Fragrance. Fragrance. Uninterested. Uninterested. Pleasure. Pleasure. Approve. Approve. Journey. Journey. Test. Test. Burden. Burden. Freedom. Freedom. Creativity. Creativity. Success. Success. Fame. Fame. Regret. Regret. Passion. Passion. Potential. Potential. Unforgettable. Unforgettable. Authenticity. Authenticity. Soul. Soul. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. What was Sophia's greatest wish? Answer. To become one of the greatest bards in history. Question 2. Why did Sophia feel discouraged at the beginning? Answer. Because no one listened to her poems. Question 4. What did Sophia answer when the old man asked how she would end the story of the young boy? With the funny poem? Answer. She replied that she would refuse to please others and stay true to herself. Question 5. What did Sophia say when asked if the man should give up on his path of creation? Answer. Sophia replied that she had experienced similar feelings but would never give up. Question 6. What did Sophia decide to do when the old man offered her the golden pen? Answer. She decided to decline the offer. Question 7. What is the most important thing for an artist, according to the story? Answer. Staying true to one's own soul and uniqueness.
The Princess and the Crown of Charm. Long ago, two princesses lived in a peaceful kingdom. Seraphina, the older sister, was graceful and loved by all. Everyone in the palace smiled for her. Even the birds sang sweeter songs when she passed. Leora the younger stayed in the shadows. Her true love was painting. Her art was full of life and color. Trees in her art looked like they moved. Eyes in her portraits seemed to shine and blink. However, all around the palace, people only adore Seraphina. They saw Leora as someone lesser. They often say to her, "Why can't you be like your older sister?" Honestly, Leora didn't want beauty or attention. Yet, after years of hurtful words, she began to feel small and unlovable. One day, Leora went to the old library for some old art books. The room was dark and full of dust. Old books and broken boxes lined the walls. Then, something shiny caught her eye. In a dark corner sat a small black box. Leora walked closer and opened the lid. Inside was a silver crown, thin and bright. A note read, "The crown of charm, beloved by all who see you." The words struck Leora's heart deeply. Curious and lonely, Leora put the crown on her head. Light surrounded her hair sparkled. She walked to the mirror and looked inside. The girl in the glass looked like a fairy. She was more beautiful than ever before. She smiled for the first time in years. "Now, let's see. Will they love this Leora?" she whispered. The next morning, Leora walked into the royal hall. Everyone turned and stared at her. The nobles bowed and smiled as she walked by. Even her father looked amazed. "My beautiful daughter," he said. "How did I never notice your light before?" That day, the whole castle buzzed with excitement. Musicians played for her. Cooks made her favorite food. Gods opened every door for her with care. But Leora felt strange. As a painter, Leora noticed things others didn't. She saw eyes that didn't truly see her. People looked at her beauty, not her soul. When she stood up to leave for her painting session, everyone pulled her back to look at her more. They wanted the sparkle, not the spirit. Surrounded by people, Leora felt like a statue, not a person. She felt praised, but not valued. After the noisy day, Leora felt too tired and did not want to get out of her bedroom. Waking up late in the afternoon, something suddenly hit her. "Where is Seraphina?" Leora asked herself. "I have not seen her since yesterday." Leora ran through the halls looking for her sister. Then she heard voices from the garden stairs and stopped to listen. The king and Seraphina were standing alone. The king was speaking and his voice was firm. "Seraphina," he said, "you must be more like Leora now. You must shine like your sister." After the king had left, Leora rushed to her sister. But Seraphina had already walked away without a word. At that moment, Leora felt her heart twist. Yesterday, Leora saw her sister's life more clearly. Today, she felt her sister's heart for the first time. Seraphina too must have been hurt when Leora was criticized. Seraphina too must have been so lonely. Standing alone in the garden, Leora realized she wanted to walk beside her sister and not further from her. On the third day, Leora could not even sleep. After all the stress and strain, she needed to breathe. She left the castle in the early morning for a walk. For the first time in days, she noticed the colors around her. The morning light made the stone roads look golden. The trees had different shades of green. Her painter's eyes slowly returned. She felt a little peace. In the town square, she saw a small crowd. They were standing around the boy and watched him with joy. The boy sat on the ground, painting quietly. Leora stopped and stared. His clothes were plain, but his smile was full of light. He glowed from inside. Leora knew this feeling. This was the aura of being truly oneself. The tide of a painter painting their artworks. The glow of someone doing what they love. Her heart began to ache. She missed her pains. She missed herself. If being loved means I cannot be myself, then I do not want this crown anymore. When Leora returned to the palace, she took a deep breath. Slowly, she removed the crown from her head. The golden light vanished. Her dress lost its glow. All of a sudden, everyone walks past her. The same people who praised her yesterday now walked past without a glance. Leora stood alone in the grand ballroom. But strangely, she didn't feel empty. She felt free. She smiled softly and turned to walk away. Then, someone grabbed her hand. It was Seraphina. Seraphina had pushed through the crowd to reach her. Leora, she said, breathing fast. You look different. Leora gave a shy smile. Maybe you just didn't notice me anymore. Seraphina shook her head. I always notice. Today, you're not wearing the crown, right? Leora was shocked, and she stood still to listen to Sephora's story. For a long time, everyone had seen Seraphina as the beautiful princess. But behind the laughter and the gowns, Seraphina had always been observant. I heard whispers about forbidden magic, Seraphina continued. And the moment I saw the strange crown on you, I knew. Leora asked curiously. Why did you not tell anyone? Seraphina looked down. To tell the truth, these days were my happiest days. I did not have to act for anyone. I was free to be myself. I even tried to paint because I saw you love painting so much. But I did not know how to use the colors. No one taught me. For the first time in forever, the two sisters laughed together. They looked at each other with warm smiles and bright eyes. They saw that both had wanted each other's lives. They tried it, but they liked their own lives more. Still, they agreed each world had something special to enjoy. In the days after that, everyone in the palace noticed a change. The two princesses were always together, hand in hand. In the morning, Seraphina took Leora to tea parties. In the afternoon, Leora painted with Seraphina in the garden. They saw Seraphina's new happiness and the new colors in Leora's art. You do not always need love from the world. The first love must come from inside you. Love yourself first. And of course, when you find someone who truly cares for you, you both will shine even brighter together. True happiness is loving yourself and being loved for who you really are. Let me explain some new words from the story. Princess, princess. Graceful, graceful. Paint, paint. Adore, adore. Attention, attention. Unlovable, unlovable. Library, library. Crown, crown. Charm, charm. Curious, curious. Lonely, lonely. Sparkle, sparkle. Mirror, mirror. Fairy, fairy. Praise, praise. Statue, statue. Value, value. Criticize, criticize. Aura, aura. Glow, glow. Remove, remove. Free, free. Observe, observe. Happiness, happiness. Lastly, let's answer the following questions. Question 1. Why did people in the kingdom admire Seraphina more than Leora? Answer. Because Seraphina was beautiful and graceful, while Leora loved to stay in the shadows. Question 2. What was Leora's true passion? Answer. Her true passion was painting. Question 3. What did the crown's note say? Answer. It said that everyone would love her if she wore it. Question 4. How did Leora feel when everyone paid attention to her because of the crown? Answer. She felt strange, empty, and not truly valued. Question 5. What made Leora finally decide to remove the crown? Answer. She realized she missed her true self and did not want to be loved only for her appearance. Question 6. What secret did Seraphina reveal to Leora after she took off the crown? Answer. Seraphina also struggled with people only loving her appearance and wanted to try drawing. Question 7. What is the main lesson the two sisters learned at the end? Answer. They learned to love themselves and each other for who they really are. Today's story is very meaningful, right? Do you like listening to short stories? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment on what you'd like to learn next. See you next time. Goodbye.